Hey, RetconRaider here. Today's episode is dedicated to Raven, the viewer who requested Dame Adriana, who we'll finally be meeting in today's episode. Thanks for your support, Raven. That said, let's get started. Where once the Weald had played host to bandits, beasts, and strange fungal things, it was now home to the ever-growing swarm of vampiric insects. Once restricted to the courtyard, that vile infestation had now spread throughout the woods that lined the entire estate, and my recruits were beginning to struggle with the sheer number they were encountering. Our latest expedition, bloodied and tattered but unbeaten, had returned with a stack of curious documents that they had ripped from clawed fingers. Each letter was meticulously crafted, a miniature work of art that had been etched with gold, sealed with wax, and inked with blood. They all invited me by name to a gathering at the Crimson Court, where I was promised an audience with the Baron to officially discuss my claim to the estate. I didn't recognize the name, and I certainly wasn't going to accept the invitation, but it was still unsettling to realize that there was something out there in the darkness that had finally taken a personal interest in me. For the sake of my nerves, I decided it was best not to dwell on the matter. I set the invitations aside to instead focus on the more mundane task of running the hamlet. The first thing demanding my attention was the new stagecoach that had just arrived. Apparently, the bandits populating the surrounding wilderness had left many of the occupants in rather sorry condition. Their spokesman was a woman in knightly garb who introduced herself as Dame Adriana. She was a somewhat curious sight, but given the circumstances, we had little time for questions. Instead, I quickly rounded up some of the other able-bodied recruits to help bring the sick and wounded to the sanitarium. Dame Adriana seemed thankful for the assistance, or perhaps for the lack of questions, and I lost track of her shortly afterwards. The last I saw of her, she was being led away by one of the sisters of the Vestal Order, but I had no doubt that I would be meeting her again. Given that bandits and scoundrels had taken to preying upon those who traveled the surrounding roads, I decided to take matters into my own hands. A few coins spent on things like proper scouting and armed patrols would hopefully make it a little safer for travelers, while also ensuring a steadier flow of trade and supplies. With that out of the way, I once again turned my attention to other things. Our latest expedition had shown that the Weald was infested with bloodthirsty parasites, but what of the cove beneath the old mansion? Fox had fared well in past scouting missions, so I put him in charge of this one as well. He personally assembled the team, calling upon Kilroy and Sober to help map out those caverns. He also recruited Varnas, the quiet, scarred man that some of the other townsfolk had begun referring to as the Abomination. Although I was curious, I decided it was best not to question his decisions. After all, he had been doing this sort of thing for far longer than I had. As always, I just had to hope that he knew what he was doing.
These salt-soaked caverns are teeming with pelagic nightmares. They must be flushed out.
Welcome back to episode 18. Today we're headed back into the Cove in hopes of unlocking another boss fight. But first, let's take a look at our heroes. Fox. Geodis Varnas. Kilroy. Sober. This is obviously a pretty unconventional party build, but I'm hoping we can make up for the lack of a primary healer with careful use of stuns and secondary heals.
Wealth beyond measure, awarded to the brave and the foolhardy alike.
Okay, we've got our first fight right through this door. Let's see how this goes.
As the light gains purchase, spirits are lifted, and purpose is made clear.
This doesn't look too bad. Let's start off with some crowd control. We can have Varnas transform if we need him to, but for now he'll stick to blighting and stunning.
Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
We've already neutralized their middle rows, so let's start focusing on row 1.
Press this advantage. Give them no quarter.
Nice.
For death by inches.
Okay, let's wrap this up.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
I hate to tempt fate, but that fight actually went pretty smoothly, and we got a decent amount of loot. Let me rearrange Kilroy's moves real quick. There we go. Now she's got some defensive moves to fall back on. Great, more vampires and a darkness orb. We've got a party full of damage dealers, so let's take them out quick. Alright, Varnas, it's time.
Obliterated.
Okay, that's one down. Now we can either try to take out one of the supplicants, or we can debuff two of them with suppressive fire. Let's go for the kill.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
I've been told that the Abomination is resistant to the Crimson Curse, so hopefully they'll keep targeting Varnas.
Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all. Seize this momentum. Push on to the task's end.
Again, that went pretty well. I'd also like to rearrange Kilroy's abilities again. She doesn't really need two defensive abilities, and I'd like to re-equip her Dagger Toss. There we go. Let's move on. I'll admit, I am tempted to activate that orb. We haven't gotten the chance to fight a Shambler yet, but our current party's really not built for it. Four fishmen. An annoying but straightforward fight. Oof. Okay, Fox is hurting. Let's toss out some suppressive fire. Now we need more DOTs. Let's see here. Kilroy should be able to kill at least one target.
Impressive.
Very nice.
Slowly, gently. This is how a life is taken.
We've basically won the fight, so now we can just heal. Well, except for Fox. I guess he can keep punching things.
Remind yourself that overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer.
Now we'll grab a quick buff from the fish idol. And we might as well have Fox eat some food. I brought along extra just in case. Even more vampires. Alright, let's do this. Though we should focus on the gatekeeper first. Here we go. Okay, so far so good. It's not much of a tactic, but we really just need to kill these guys before they can infect any of us.
As victories mount, so too will resistance.
That's another vampire fight under our belt. We're at the halfway mark, so hopefully we can maintain this momentum. Nice. This should be another easy fight. Okay.
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own.
We need to buy time for some healing.
slow death. Unforeseen. Unforgiving. This expedition at least promises success.
Alright, we've only got 4 units of food left, so we'll save that in case of a hunger event. Just 3 more rooms and 2 more guaranteed fights. Let's keep moving. Well, there goes the rest of our food. At least it clears another space in our inventory. We've got a rotting fish carcass ahead. Guess we don't have to worry about food after all. I guess we are pretty close to the end. Let's go ahead and dump the torches.
The light, the promise of safety.
Alright, we've got a hall fight ahead. Hopefully it's not more vampires. Oh, nice. Okay, this should be easy. We took a decent amount of damage there. Let's see if we can buy some time. I guess Fox doesn't know his own strength. Oh well.
Ghoulish horrors. Brought low and driven into the mud.
We're a bit beat up, but we should be fine. We've only got 1 more mandatory fight ahead of us. 2 if we decide to clear the last hall. Let's go ahead and eat the rest of our food. We're literally leaving right after this. Okay, this is a somewhat tougher fight. We definitely need to take out that madman, but first we need to neutralize the Guardian. Nice. There we go. Now we just need to clean up. His stun resistance just wore off, so let's stun him again.
A trifling victory, but a victory nonetheless.
And we're officially done here. Now, we could crack this chest open and call it a day, but we've only got one fight left ahead of us, and we're still in halfway decent shape. I'll probably regret this, but let's try pushing our luck. Of course. It just had to be vampires. Okay, you know the drill by this point. We just need to take them down hard and fast. That's one. Damage or debuff? Let's go for the debuff.
Well struck.
Come on. You know what? I'm not even mad. A vampire werewolf is pretty awesome.
A devastating blow. A singular strike. Be wary. Triumphant pride precipitates a dizzying fall.
At least we found a decent amount of loot. Okay, we just need to put out our torch, then double back to the chest.
Secrets and wonders can be found in the most tenebrous corners of this place.
Well, alright then. It's certainly better than nothing, but not by much. We're done here. Let's head home.
At last, wholesome marine life can flourish. If indeed there is such a thing.
Fox picked up night blindness, but he also hit rank 2, which was one of my goals. It's not perfect, but I think I've got a good idea of what's next. Let's head back to town. Fox and the others returned less than a day later, bruised and bloody, but triumphant. Unfortunately, their report confirmed what I had already feared. The Crimson Court had infested the Cove. Those things had infested every corner of the estate, and as things stood, I had to wonder why they had not yet tried to infiltrate the hamlet itself. Perhaps we had this mysterious Baron to thank for that, at least for the time being. Of course, it was important for me to keep my eye on the bigger picture. There were other monstrous things around the estate, things that might be even worse than the vampires. In recent days, some of the townsfolk had sighted a monstrous winged thing, a many-eyed deep crow that some said did the bidding of a strange old hag who lived deep in the woods. We had also received word that the dead had once again begun rising in the old ruins, perhaps heralding the arrival of some new necromancer. As for the Cove, well, it was just as tainted as every other part of my family estate. It was infested with parasitic courtesans and pelagic nightmares, but perhaps most peculiar of all, the recent intrusion had apparently awakened something deep within those jagged cliffs. A distant voice, melodious and melancholy, could sometimes be heard coming from those caves. To my surprise, Fox was insistent that he be allowed to venture back out to the coves to investigate the source of that singing. I was a bit put off by his behavior. He was normally professional and restrained, but now there was a strange urgency to his voice. Growing increasingly concerned, I refused his request, and the next morning he was gone. I think Bunny was even more alarmed than I was, and I quickly approved her request to pursue the errant bounty hunter. While Fox had clearly taken pains to cover his tracks, it didn't take Anuk long to find his scent, and the rescue party left for the Cove shortly afterwards. I certainly hoped that there would be a happy ending to all of this, that the others would find their friend and bring him back safe and sound. But given the nature of this damnable place, I feared that this could only end in blood.